Hello, today we're going to talk about scripting basics in this lesson. And our learning objectives are to describe the differences between using the command window, which we've focused on so far, and using the MATLAB script files. The second one is creating detailed headers for your scripts. And then third, we want to start to talk about best practices for outputs that the user would see when using a script. So as an introduction, so far we've been using the command window in MATLAB. And essentially this has allowed us to operate MATLAB like a really advanced calculator. And we can and do use the command window for inputting sequential commands. So for example, when we were introducing the command window, we did some sequential programming in which we were calculating the cylinder volume and also the surface area based on the radius and the height. And we did that by putting in a cylinder radius of 1, a cylinder height of 2, and then we made a couple calculations. The first one was the cylinder volume, and then the cylinder surface area. But even in this example, I wouldn't say that we are programming in a way that's particularly useful for the types of problems that you want to be ready to tackle with MATLAB. To do this in a very useful way, we need the ability to sequentially execute a lot of lines of code. We need to be able to store them, and we need to be able to edit them and make changes in the future. So if you exclusively use the command window for much longer in this course, you're going to be sick of having to type and then retype the commands over and over, trying to find them and edit them with our up button, for example. So to obtain these features that we want in MATLAB, we use scripts. And this is one of the file types that has the extension .m. To initiate a script, we're going to click on the New Script button, which opens up a new window within our MATLAB. It's an untitled, and then also see that we have line numbers. And since we want to change our cylinder volume, cylinder surface area, sequential programming into a script, let's just copy and paste what we have here. So we'll put in defining what the radius was, and then what our cylinder height, our volume calculation, and then our surface area. And so what's going to happen within the script is it's going to run each of these lines 1 through 8 sequentially, just as if we typed them into our command window. Now, one of the things that's really important for a script is to have some information within the script that's telling us what's occurring, that's telling the user what's occurring. So on Canvas, I've put a template for a script header that you can use for your programs. You can just copy and paste this in here, and this is our opportunity to provide some information, some detailed information about the script itself. So let's replace some of this information here. So for a title, we'll just call this Cylinder Geometry Calculations. And then for the file name, we need to obey the same rules that we have with our variable names. So, and those are that we can't start with a number, and we can't have spaces, and we have to end with a .m. So we'll just call this Cylinder Geometry Calcs, good descriptive file name, and it's .m. And in our description, we want to take just a brief description here that says what this is for. And so I've just inputted that this script takes the height and radius of a cylinder as the input, and then it outputs the volume and surface area of the cylinder. Here, this line about files needed to run, these are going to be some other things. Maybe you're importing a data file, maybe it's calling a custom-built function or some other file that you need to have within the same folder. For this script, we don't have that. So we'll just replace with an NA. And then this is some information that's a little bit tedious, but I have found is really helpful throughout the years. So who created it and when? So right now it's 2021. It is the 13th. And I'll just put my initials. And also because this is the initial run of this, It's going to be the same thing. Put my initials, and then this change log, again, I found a lot of use from having a nice detailed header, because when I come back to my code, I can see the changes that it's gone through. And so still to date, the date being 2021, 1/13, putting all that same information. And so this is when the original code written, and then by me. And then the last thing that you see in this header template that I gave you is a clear all, close all commands. So when starting a script, unless that script is called by another script, it's best practices to clear everything out of the workspace and then close all other windows that are open, that MATLAB has open. And often this will be figures that you're closing. Now we still have an untitled with a little star beside it, which tells us that it's not saved. We need to save this open file to a different name. We don't want it to be untitled. Instead, we'll type in our cylinder geometry calcs. And so cylinder geometry calcs.m. And now you've just written your first script. So let's clear our command window. And there's a couple different ways that we can run this script. The first way is in the graphical user interface. We can run. So this will save the script and then run it. Now notice that there's no output, and that's because we have suppressed our calculations. So if we run it again, let's do that. And so now we see our calculations coming up, our cylinder volume, and then our cylinder surface area. And this is going to allow us to close this script. We can then make changes to this script. We do need to add a couple more annotations as we have it right now, because we said in our original problem that both of these are in meters. And if we say now that we have a cylinder height of 3, we can make that change. Let's save it, and then we can run this again. And you can see how it's running is that the name of our file, cylinder geometry calcs, is populated into the command window, and then anything that's not suppressed here with a semicolon is output into the command window. Now, a couple other things to notice in the scripting is that we have some orange that's popping up. And so an orange is just a warning that this may not be the best practice, but it's still going to run. If you see red anywhere over here, it's telling you that your script isn't going to run due to a syntax error. So now that was the first way that we could run a script, by using the run button. The second way is by calling the script directly from the command window. And so we can do that by typing in the name of the script itself. And if the script is located in the current folder, it's going to run the script. So now let's take a look at these orange parts that telling us this isn't really the best practice here. So what we do want to do is we do want to suppress these outputs, because what we have below here are really just incidental outputs of the calculations themselves. But in thinking about the user, it would be best if when running the script, let's say your user is going to run this cylinder geometry calcs, that we have the proper amount of detail that comes up in the command window and is formatted. So I want to show you a simple way to get the information out of the script that you want and to the user in a rough formatted way. And we'll do that using the DSP command. And so the DSP command is going to take any of the information that we have that we want to display, put it right into the command window. So we know that we want to give your user the cylinder volume, and then we also want to give your user the cylinder surface area. So now when we run the script, cylinder geometry calcs, we get that information out of it. Now it's not linked to anything yet, so we can dress this up a little bit. We can do this by saying DSP and then do a single quote, and this is going to allow us to put some writing in there that's going to, or some text in there that's going to inform us what it is that we're looking at. Okay, done. And now let's run it again. And we see now that we see our cylinder volume and then our cylinder surface area with some units that help us understand this a little bit better. And we can continue to dress this up by putting some spaces in between these. Save it, clear our command window, and then when we run this, cylinder geometry calcs, it gives us our cylinder volume and our cylinder surface area. We may also want to display some information to the user that tells the user what it is that he or she is running. And so now it's saying this script is calculating the volume and surface area of a cylinder given the radius and the height. So I hope this is a good start for getting you programming in your first script, showing you some things about best practices in your scripts, namely make a detailed header. Make this every single time. It really helps you in your organization, particularly when you're coming back to code. We're still using our descriptive variable names. That'll come up again when we talk about pseudocode. And then our user outputs, what it is that the user is actually seeing. Take some time and make that not just look nice for looking nice, but communicating the proper information to the user of your scripts.